What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 2 of this 4-part series about my ayahuasca plant medicine experience at Rythmia in Costa Rica. So in the last video, I talked about the first ceremony, and in this video, we're going to go into night 2. So night 2 was actually, let me think, 28, 29, 30, 92. Yeah, so night 2 was New Year's Eve, which is pretty crazy. New Decade's Eve. And it was an incredibly blissful experience for me. Night 2 was the local brew that they have. One of their shamans, whose name is Brad, brews the ayahuasca locally there in Costa Rica. And this night for me was a lot gentler than the first night. I feel like I got a lot of my darkness and the death experience kind of sort of out of the way, or so I thought. Stay tuned for night 3. On the first night. And so night 2 for me really was just incredibly blissful. Again, the first cup didn't do much for me. I did have a pretty strong embodied experience, kind of like a strong mushroom trip. But the second cup, I remember, just took me in this really beautiful, blissful space of appreciation and gratitude. And I was able to sort of recontextualize a lot of the difficulty of the night before while on the medicine. Specifically, I had been struggling all day that day with how much darkness had been inside of me. Like, I had realized, like, wow, I have all this darkness inside of me, and it was scary. It was scary to know that existed inside of me. And night 2 really helped me realize that it's not about the darkness, because that raw energy, like I said in the first video, is inside all of us. But it's about what you do with that energy and how you alchemize it for good. And I remember I was lying on my mattress, and all of a sudden I start to hear fireworks going off. And I'm like, obviously, like, out of my mind on TMT. And I start hearing the fireworks go off, and I look up and I realize that it's New Year's, like it's New Year's Eve. And I just saw all of these people dancing, all people who are in the journey with me in the Maloka, just dancing to this beautiful, slow guitar Ikaro music, and people just expressing themselves so freely. And it was so beautiful. And I just felt this immense love for everybody and this immense gratitude to be alive on this earth as a soul embodied in a human experience, with this beautiful opportunity to just share this beautiful playground that we get to call it Earth. With all of these people. And I just felt such a desire to just love people wherever they're at. In that moment, I couldn't, if you paid me, I couldn't have tried to judge somebody or hate somebody. I was just so in love with everybody, just exactly how they were. And that really inspired me. So I got outside and I walked outside of the Maloka, and the retreat center is like across the street from a Marriott, like a JW Marriott. It's a nice resort hotel in Costa Rica. And so they were just having like a New Year's Eve party. And when you walk outside, you could hear a bit of the music coming from the Marriott. And so I was hearing all the New Year's Eve like classics, like all the classic New Year's Eve hits that you'll hear at a party. And I could see the fireworks going off. And I remember looking up into the sky, looking at the stars and looking at the fireworks, which when you're on ayahuasca is just a next level mind-blowing experience in and of itself. And I remember looking up at the fireworks and just feeling this deep sense of purpose, like this deep commitment to just fight for good, to use all of this newfound darkness that I had inside of me as a force for good and as a force for truth. And I'm turning 30 in a couple months. So, this New Year's Eve was very meaningful and pivotal for me, because not only was it the start of a new decade, the 20s, but also it's about to be the start of my 30s. And I was able to kind of reflect back on my life. And at one point, I felt some amount of sadness about how all the times in the past that I've let my ego blind me to the needs of the people around me who love me and who just wanted my love in that moment. Like all the times that I just didn't behave well with my parents, or wasn't there for my sister, didn't show up for people I love in the way that I could have, because I was so concerned with protecting my own sense of ego. So, maybe if they attacked me or they did something that I perceived as an attack, I wasn't able to step outside of my own solipsistic, narcissistic viewpoint and realize that in that moment, even if it was the expression of what they were doing was coming out as an attack. What they really wanted was just love. What they really were doing was just expressing that they were going through pain, and pain of me not being there for them as a son or as a brother. And this was sad, but it was also very energizing to have this insight, and to realize that I have the rest of my life to dedicate towards good and truth. And I have all this reservoir of raw power and energy inside of me to dedicate towards that. And all of a sudden, all of the darkness that I felt with me the night before transformed from this scary thing that I'm afraid of, that I wish I didn't have, to like this beautiful tool, this beautiful asset that I have inside of me that I can use now with will, with intention, to be a force for good and a force for truth in this world. And I just had a very strong feeling that that's what I want to do with my music. That's what I want to do with my interpersonal relationships with my family and my friends and romantic partners. And that's what I want to do with my life and just my way of being and existing and the frequency at which I'm vibrating on this earth. So it was a beautiful New Year's Eve, to say the least. And night 2 was just really, really beautiful and blissful. So with that, signing off, and I'll see you guys in a second for my recap of night 3.